Let's get back to calls. And John in Geelong, good morning to you and thanks for holding.
Hello, John in Melbourne. I have a point of view on this homophobic thing. I think the labelling of everybody who opposes homosexuality or same-sex marriage should not be labelled homophobic just because they disagree with it. You can disagree with it for other reasons than having an irrational fear. You can have a disagreement based on morality, for instance.
Yeah, but how far do you take you might not particularly like it, John, but how far do you go in expressing your views about other people's life choices?
Well, I don't want to live in a society where somebody can't say, I disapprove of something without being attacked for that.
But who's attacked you, John?
No, not me. I'm just talking about generally. We see in the news that people who don't like homosexuality or don't like same-sex marriage are automatically, almost like a knee-jerk reaction, labelled as homophobic. Now, homophobia implies that they have an irrational fear. Now, that's not always true because some people object to both those categories, homosexuality and homosexual marriage, on the basis of morality or some other reason. They might object to it because it doesn't fit in with their view of how the world should be.
I think we're at slightly cross purposes, John. I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how you publicly express how you feel and what
I would
you
like
do
to think
about
that in
it
a
as a
society people
consequence.
can publicly express their discontent of that particular thing that they're opposed to without being automatically slapped with the label that they're irrationally fearful.
Doesn't it come down to how you express your views of other people, John? And so...
But are you saying that people who oppose homosexuality are automatically homophobic?
No, I'm saying it depends on how you express your views about the disposition and choice that other people have made in their lives. So, for instance, let's swing it around to another issue. You might not like same-sex marriage, but if it's what other people want to do in their relationship, what business is it of yours what they want to do in their life?
Well, it is the business of the person who disapproves to say that they disapprove if they want to. It's called free speech.
Well, the interesting thing about what you're saying, John, is you're talking about how it makes you feel or how it makes someone else feel who wants to express that view. One of the things I'm asking people to think about and reflect on is how it's making the person feel that you're speaking of.
So what are you saying? We should just shut our opinions up because we might hurt somebody's feelings?
No, I haven't said that. But what I have said is to be reflective about how you express your views and what impact it might have on other people.
Yeah, but if someone disagrees with homosexuality, you can't say to them, well, you're not allowed to have an opinion because you might offend somebody or hurt somebody's feelings. That leads to a sort of totalitarian society where no one can speak up against anything because somebody else will be hurt.
But what if you flip that around and what if you say that you are in favour of marriage equality and you're not concerned about homosexuality and you want to express that freely, or you want to live a life that's consistent with that, ought you not be able to do that without being made to feel terrible or even worse, be assaulted physically for that?
I'm not advocating assaulting anyone physically.
I didn't suggest that you were. I'm just asking whether you agree with that proposition.
I agree with the proposition that people have a right to speak up in their defence of their particular viewpoint without being verbally or physically assaulted or threatened just because they disagree with something.
No one's verbally threatening or physically threatening.
Not me in particular,
John.
but just people in general. I mean, if you walk down the street and you say, I don't approve of homosexuality, there are going to be nutcases who will want to attack you.
But why do you need to walk down the street and say it?
You see people who protest. In America now, there's a church group who protests against homosexuality. I've seen it on the news.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back a step.
And they get attacked and assaulted by do-gooders who want to destroy what they're saying. They want to shut them up.
John, you can have whatever views John from Geelong wants to have. No one's disputing that.
Well, no, they are disputing it because I've had Liberty on before her, and she said on previous occasions that people shouldn't be allowed to say anything if it offends or hurts other people.
No, you've just misdescribed what I was putting to you because you interrupted me and didn't let me finish trying to make the point.
Okay, sorry.
You can have whatever views John from Geelong would like, but when you then want to turn your beliefs into public statements about other people, that's when we start to get into troubled waters, isn't it?
And don't the people who push for homosexuality and homosexual marriage, don't they do exactly the same thing? They try to shame people who don't agree with them.
Do they?
They try to shame them by calling them homophobic.
No, most of them just want to live their life and
they go on an active campaign of shaming. This rainbow thing on top of bridges and putting rainbow flags everywhere is an attempt to belittle and shame people who don't agree with their viewpoint.
Is it?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
Because the people who don't share their viewpoint don't put up flags and things on top of bridges and things presenting their viewpoint.
Well,
Because if they
sorry,
tried
I'm
to do
not
that,
aware
they'll
of
be attacked.
I'm not aware of a flag that goes the other way. Do you have a problem with the Aboriginal flag flying on top of Parliament?
Yes, I do, actually.
I thought you might. Do you have a problem with other public expressions of viewpoints other than your own, basically?
No, I have a viewpoint with things which don't sit well with concepts of what, say, for instance, Australian nationalities. The Aboriginal flag is not a nationality, and there were complaints about it.
But you don't want any public expression of anything that doesn't meet your standards,
at the time
John.
When the Aboriginal flag was highlighted at the Sydney Olympics, there were people who complained about it then when Cathy Freeman was running around with the Aboriginal flag and the Australian flag at the same time.
There were people who complained about
That's
it,
right,
and you were
because the
probably
Aboriginal
one of
flag
them.
is not a national flag, and the Olympics, you're only supposed to fly national flags.
Do you accept that most people don't have the problem you have?
But even if only a small number of people have the same opinion, they're still entitled to hold that opinion and to express it.
Oh, yeah, you're entitled to have your opinion.
And not be vilified for it.
No, the point is how you express it,
Yeah,
John,
but then they should not be vilified for it. That's the point of what I'm saying.
All right, Margaret?
I agree it's unreasonable to respond to people's sort of freely given opinions in ways that are abusive, that involve name-calling, and that's what I was referring to earlier when I was talking about Tim Wilson. I tweeted some pictures of he and I on the campaign trail, and then got several tweets back from the same person with a fake name, just name calling. And the issue of Tim's sexuality hadn't been mentioned at all. It was just here's a picture sort of thing. The point, though, is that, everyone has a right to give their views on things. There are restrictions on free speech in this country, but the other side of the coin is when you have free speech, others have free speech as well, and they are entitled to give a different view. What we're talking about, I think, is where to draw the line and what is excessive. For me, it's name-calling. I'm not going to repeat the names that were used in relation to Tim. That goes too far.
It's playground stuff. But the problem that John from Geelong has just put the highlighter pen through, as far as I'm concerned, is John can't see a gay member of Parliament as a member of Parliament. He can only see that member of Parliament as a gay member of Parliament.
I don't know that he actually touched on that in particular.
Well,
he was talking about
I'm attributing
gay marriage.
I think we can be pretty clear that that's the way that this works. So if someone with John's disposition is engaged in public debate, they can't differentiate between the label and the person, and that's where this debate goes off the rails so often. You can't get past seeing someone through the prism of your label, and that's where we get into problems, I reckon. But let's get to more callers after the news headlines and keep the discussion going. On the Friday Wrap today, Liberty Sanger from Morris Blackburn, Margaret Fitzherbert from the Liberal Party in State Parliament. More of your calls, 1300 222 774 after the latest in the newsroom with Tim Callanan. Thanks, Tim. Lots more text messages. Beck in Melbourne says, I'm appalled at you, John Fain. The man from Geelong rang to express his opinion. You attacked him. He was polite and respectful. You twisted his words, then accused him of saying things he never said. I'm disappointed in your misunderstanding of free speech. And then I've got about 50 text messages from people saying, don't argue with an idiot, says Des from Ascot Vale. They only bring you down to their level. And John from Geelong is saying he should be able to respectfully express disagreement with homosexuality without himself being vilified, says Boff in Brunswick. But it's hate-filled and disgraceful. Why are you airing these attitudes? Why do you let people vilify without any restrictions? And I'm copping abuse from people, while we're talking about copping abuse, for letting John from Geelong say how he was sick of copping abuse. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. Karen, also in Geelong. Morning to you, Karen. Welcome to the Wrap.
Good morning. Thank you. I have been personally touched by this horror of homophobia. My brother was a young gay man in Geelong back in 1988. We need leadership and courage to do the right thing and stop this nonsense. We elect them to lead, not elect them to throw it back on us.
All right,
make decisions.
Got lots and lots of people wanting to speak, including the rappers. Andrew in Doncaster says, John from Geelong was completely right in what he was saying. You didn't have an answer. Then you made up what he wasn't saying after you'd let him go so he couldn't defend himself. You probably won't read this out because of your one-way views, and you like to play devil's advocate. On the other hand, people with that type of view only think that their view is the only correct one, And then there are people who engage in name-calling, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Stephen Hillside on the Wrap. Morning, Steve.
G'day, John. We've spoken a number of times, and I'll tell you where I'm coming from. I hold pretty much the same views as John, but at the same time I have a son, my youngest son, who's come out as gay, and he lives with his mother and myself. And I was just horrified to hear what happened in Orlando and think that could have been my boy, you know. And I really wanted to pipe into the debate when I heard someone accuse the ABC of leading the charge on political correctness. And I'm sorry to say, John, but the ABC in general, not particularly the radio, but I believe that they have actually contributed to a moral decline in language. Political correctness has caused more divisions than it has united by labelling people and labelling issues. And we as a society are more divided than ever because...
And it's the ABC's fault, Steve?
Well, I think if you look back to the early 70s, you know, the first time we heard the F word on television was in ABC produced programs where they had free rein to do whatever they wish, and now that's filtered into all the other commercial channels, and profane language now just fills our screens and movies. And
Steve, the most hateful things you've ever heard or seen in the Australian media, print or electronic, have been anywhere except in the ABC, surely. I mean, you get your satire from the ABC, but if you want to talk about hateful radio broadcasts, I'd have thought we'd be at the bottom of the list. If you want to talk about hateful television shows...
Don't talk over me, please.
I'm not talking over you. I'm giving you some responses to your claim.
No, I said hateful things. I didn't say anything hateful.
You're talking about political correctness causing problems in society, and you blamed the ABC.
I said that the ABC was in the forefront of so-called free speech. You've got people ringing up now who have been socially engineered not to say my husband or my wife because we risk offending people who are living together or who are a same-sex couple.
What do you mean socially engineered is the way you describe that, do you?
Well, I think that's what's been happening over the past 20 or 30 years, yes. You
want to go back to the 50s or 60s? You think everything was fabulous then, Steve?
No, I don't think everything was fabulous. I think that if you look through the history books, you go back to the great civilizations of the world, the thing that brought their downfall is they collapsed morally from within. That's what brought down the Greek, the Roman, the Byzantine. All the civilizations collapsed from within from their moral decay.
Okay, so we're heading to Sodom and Gomorrah, Liberty.